What is going on, guys? I'm with the Moose, and today I'm going to be bringing you another weapon comparison. This time it's going to be the 870 versus the KSG. Going to be determining what the best shotgun is in Call of Duty Black Ops 2, so let's jump right into it. Kicking it right off with damage, we're going to see that the 870 does 50 damage up close and 10 damage at a distance. This is obviously per pellet. Each shell has 8 pellets in it, making the KSG do a ton of damage up close, up to 400 actually. If you do 50 times 8, that would be 400. And then obviously 80 damage at its farthest distance per shot if all the pellets hit. Now, not every time you shoot somebody will all the pellets hit. This basically means that you could hit maybe 4 pellets, but if you're up close, it's going to do 200 damage and still kill the person. The 870 is kind of a funky gun to actually test with or show in its damage statistics, but basically you're going to get one-shot kills a lot with the 870. Now moving on to the KSG, it does a damage of 200 to 45. This means that the KSG is actually the highest damage bullet firing weapon in Black Ops 2 with 200 damage. The KSG works a little bit different than the 870 because it shoots a slug or just a single bullet, however you want to think about it, which basically means you're going to need to be much more accurate than with the 870. But the big advantage of this is that you have much more range and you have a much better chance of getting a one-shot kill with the KSG than the 870. So as I mentioned briefly before, the KSG shoots as a slug. It is also pump action just like the 870, while the 870 shoots a shell of 8 pellets each, and it does also pump action, so you will have to cycle the actual bullet or the shell or however you want to think about it after each time you shoot. This means that the rate of fire that you will have is going to be much slower than a normal weapon, and much slower than the other two shotguns, the S12 and the M1216 or the M1216, however you want to call that. Now taking a look at their actual rate of fires each, they basically have the same rate of fire overall. If you look at it, the 870 shoots at a rate of fire of 80 rounds per minute, or 80 shells per minute, should I say? And the KSG shoots at 77 slugs per minute, or 77 shots per minute, however you want to think about it. Basically, it's pretty much the same. Obviously, they're off by 3, but overall, it's not going to make too much of a difference, and neither of them has a clear advantage in this category. Moving on to magazine size now, the 870 has a rather good amount of 8 to 11, 8 being with no extended clip and 11 being with extended clip, while the KSG has a rather ridiculous amount of 14 without extended clip and 20 with extended clip. I definitely would not recommend using extended clip on the KSG, mainly because 20 shells is really not necessary, or 20 slugs I should say. It's kind of a just ridiculous amount. You almost will never need that many bullets or that many shells or slugs, whatever you want to call them, mainly because you can single reload the weapon, as you're going to see in the next graphic. You can reload the weapon per shell or per slug. You don't have to reload it just with one sweeping motion. So honestly, the 20 shells really isn't going to be too much of a factor and really isn't necessary. As for the 870, you could make use of 11 shots or 11 shells, however you want to think about it. But overall, I'd say Fast Mag's probably a better attachment than extended clip, but that's just my own personal opinion for the 870. Finally, to reload time for each of these weapons, as I stated, you can reload these per shell. So the 870 you can reload in just about half a second per shell, with the overall being a 4.16 second reload time if you were not using extended clip. The KSG, on the other hand, about the same amount of reload time per shell with 0.57 seconds per shell, and about 8-second time total for a full reload if you were using a 14-round magazine. So overall, the KSG and the 870 pretty much have the same amount of reload time. Obviously, they're off by 0.05 seconds, but that's not going to make too much of a difference if you're making sure you're aware of how much ammo you have at all times. Last but not least, the level that each are unlocked at. The 870 is unlocked at level 4, so obviously you get it right when you get created class, and the KSG is unlocked at level 34, kind of midway through your prestige. So if you're prestiging a lot, if you haven't hit Prestige Master yet, I would say the 870 is a much better choice because you're going to get it 30 levels earlier. But if you're either a Prestige Master or sitting at a Prestige, the KSG is still a worthwhile option for you. Now that we've gotten all those statistics out of the way, I'm going to give you guys my own opinions on each of these weapons. Personally, I think the 870 is much better than the KSG for the main reason that it doesn't require as much accuracy as the KSG. If you guys probably seen it this gameplay, the KSG requires a ton of accuracy, and if you miss, you're pretty much screwed because of the pump action time that it has. Whereas the 870 has a actually faster pump action time, and you can afford to miss a little bit with it because it has a shell and a pellet spread. whereas the KSG fires a single slug, which is basically like a sniper's bullet almost. Obviously, it does not go as far as a sniper's bullet, but it's essentially the same action as a sniper. Is basically it shoots one bullet and you better hit it, or you have to wait for your next shot. Whereas the 870, you can kind of miss and still get a kill, or at least damage the person a lot. So honestly, I think the 870 is much better. Personally, they're both good weapons, as you're going to see in this gameplay. I think I got 60 kills. I think it's a pretty good game. Hopefully you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.